Et de retour encore une fois sur notre plateforme.
And here we are once again on our platform. Welcome to everyone joining us right now for this third roundtable of this day. The topics are
how can you develop know-how thanks to geographical and industrial indications. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we hand over to our speakers, we are welcoming our moderator, Thomas Louzen. Let's have a look at this video and we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards.
L'histoire du bijou commence au 19e siècle. Et dans les années 80, on s'est rendu compte que les ventes s'essoufflaient. Donc il y a eu une association qui a été formée par le syndicat des bijoutiers pour promouvoir le bijou et en même temps rénover les modèles avec un style plus contemporain. Et dès lors que ce bijou a repris un peu d'ampleur, on s'est aperçu que malheureusement on était copié et que certains utilisaient des techniques industrielles à bas coût pour produire donc ce qui ressemblait à notre bijou mais qui n'était pas notre bijou.
En 2009, nous avons constaté une hausse des importations de granit chinois et de granit ibérique sur le marché français, moins cher que le granit breton. En parallèle de cette hausse d'importation, il y a eu un développement des pratiques peu scrupuleuses d'usurpation d'identité de granit.
Donc on était à la recherche de solutions donc, pour protéger notre produit et donc en 2015 est apparue l'indication géographique. On a fait un cahier des charges sur la fabrication de notre bijou et on a pu obtenir en 2018 l'indication géographique. Donc tout ce qui ne rentre pas dans la fabrication de l'ODG, ce sont des copies. C'est très simple, mais c'est quelque chose de très important.
L'indication géographique granit de Bretagne a été homologuée en 2017. C'est un dispositif qui a été mis en place pour nous aider à tracer et surtout à prouver que les granites sont extraits et transformés en Bretagne.
Une indication géographique industrielle et artisanale, c'est un signe officiel de qualité qui vient labelliser des produits de territoire qui ont une réputation ou une caractéristique particulière. Et c'est aussi un titre de propriété industrielle qui, à la différence d'une marque ou d'un brevet, est principalement collectif et réservé aux entreprises d'une zone déterminée. L'indication géographique, elle vient protéger le nom, qui est la première chose usurpée ou contrefaite, notamment sur les sites de commerce en ligne.
Depuis l'homologation indication géographique granit de Bretagne, on n'a pas eu de cas avérés d'usurpation d'identité ou de provenance de nos granites de Bretagne. Cet outil est bien un outil de dissuasion nous permettant effectivement de soutenir la filière.
Depuis l'obtention de l'IG, on a pu constater une augmentation de 20% du chiffre d'affaires et puis un regain aussi d'intérêt de la clientèle pour nos bijoux. Et donc c'est de bon augure pour l'avenir.
Pour moi, il y a deux bénéfices notables à l'homologation granit de Bretagne. Le premier, c'est envers nos clients et les collectivités qui ont eu vraiment une grosse prise de conscience de l'achat local et responsable. Et le deuxième bénéfice, c'est effectivement pour nous, granitiers, ça nous apporte de la crédibilité vis-à-vis du respect du cahier des charges et aussi une visibilité sur nos matériaux à travers la France.
Nos clients donc, sont protégés maintenant puisqu'ils peuvent, grâce à l'indication géographique, savoir qu'ils ont affaire aux bons produits avec la qualité de fabrication historique. Ça nous donne un avenir aussi serein puisqu'on va pouvoir former des apprentis pour pérenniser cette fabrication.
Pour les collectivités locales, c'est un moyen de valoriser le patrimoine local et c'est aussi un moyen de développement économique. Ces entreprises et territoires, elles sont extrêmement exportatrices, donc une protection nationale pour elles, c'est très clairement insuffisant, surtout dans une économie de plus en plus mondialisée, avec l'essor du e-commerce. Il est essentiel qu'elles puissent bénéficier d'une protection à minima communautaire et il est vraiment important que l'Union européenne s'empare du sujet et que les entreprises attendent avec impatience un texte qui pourra leur donner une protection harmonisée.
Et pour en parler, merci d'accueillir
notre join me in welcoming our panel and our moderator Thomas, who is the director of Industrial Director in the DGE. Is that right, Thomas? That's right. I'll let you take over with our panelists, and you can introduce them, and we will meet at the end for a few questions. Thank you. I'm happy to be moderating this panel discussion. We have been talking about traditional manufactured products with globalization. It's more and more important to have a framework to protect such products. So we're going to be talking about with experts here about geographical indications. Now, we'll be receiving Delphine Marie-Vivien, who is a researcher in REACH, Laurence Bess from the University, Pilar Montero, professor at the University of Alicante, Benjamin Moute, who's with us remotely, who works in a Linge Basque weaver firm.
Laurence Bess
is from Limoges, the Porcelain de Limoges Association for geographical indications. And Claudia Martinez-Felix, who is remotely here. She's the deputy head of unit in the intangible economy at DG Grow. To start off, Delphine, you know the importance of geographical indications worldwide. What's your interest in protecting these rights? Thanks, Thomas, for your question. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this colloquium today. It's an honor for me to be present here during the French Presidency of the European Council and talk about international perspectives for geographical indications for non-food products, artisan and industrial products. What's new in the European Union? It's nothing new in Europe, but when you look back in history, many reputed origin products existed for a long time, but they're indicated by the place of origin, whether it be food, wine, olive oil, rice, or non-food products such as incense, marble, bronze, silk, wood-related products, and so forth. So the name of the place of origin were roughly protected as an appellation of origin or a geographical indication, which are rights of intellectual property at the origin, which protect the links between a product and its origin. This link is in specification. It's a technical document that is necessary, which describes the technical specific characteristics and the geographical indication. Now, this is recognized to a unique usage of the name to designate the product which responds to specifications, which is examined by the authority in charge of its recognition. And there is a link between a name and a specification. More recently, in modern law, geographical indications in France and in Europe, in 1905, there was a protection against fraud in the sale of merchandise and against falsification of food products and agricultural products in 1935. What's interesting is that in France in 1919, there was a law which defined appellation of origin for all types of products that could be protected. For example, lace was recognized in 1935. So this is an old story, this type of handicraft products. Then we had the National Institution was representing agricultural and food products. So there's a bit of differentiation in the types of products. In the Lisbon Agreement in 1958, all of the products are covered by this appellation, either the geographical name of a country, a region, or a locality, which serves to designate a product originating therein, having the natural and human factors. Remember the link between nature, culture, and know-how. In 1992, when EU regulations were set up for the protection on the European level, the definition was also introduced with the precision. And all the steps of production, of processing, and preparation had to have been taken place in that geographical area. So that was really a very strong link between a product and its original location. And all of the production had to be local. But to respond correspond to the countries that were a bit more flexible in what the origin is. In the north of Europe, they introduced the idea of geographical indication, which requires a quality or characteristics of the product to be attributable to its geographical origin, but it does not impose a particular criteria to define the link between the product and its origin. So there's no natural and human factors that were linked in a combined way. So this new definition of GI was introduced in the TRIPS agreement in 1994, and this was open to all types of products, in addition to food products. The definition was used massively by all members of the OMC. Today, there are more than 160 members of that, even if some countries were already recognizing such appellations. It's GI applies throughout the world. If you look on the European level, the difference between the geographical indication introduced in European law and the original the appellation of origin is manifested by the type of operation being local in the area. So for the geographical indication, only one of the steps of production can happen in the indicated area, which responds quite well to products whose link is based on the knowledge, the know-how in manufacturing and human factors without the requirement about raw materials being produced locally. That's an important point. For example, the protected saucisse de manteau protects the knowledge of transforming sausage with raw material that is not local, that it comes from elsewhere.
C'est aussi cette définition de l'indication géographique souple qui a été
So this is a flexible definition, a more flexible definition is given in 2015, with the possible traditional know-how, production or processing as an extraction.
Comme moyen de justifier.
So this is a way of justifying the link with the origin. To conclude the overview, the definition of GI was also introduced in the Lisbon Agreement by the Act of Geneva. Today, if you look internationally, and in particular, the massive indication industrial in the WTO, we realize that almost 1,000 GIs have been logged for local handicraft throughout the world, which represents a considerable number if you look at the international situation. For example, in India, there are many artisanal handicraft products are present, and out of the 146, two-thirds are for handicraft products and not food products. In Europe, a study in 2013 identified 634 potential non-agricultural products that could benefit from IGs. And in France, 12 were approved. There are textiles, the ceramics, and stones, and rocks, and so forth. So this world panorama, what's the situation in Europe? Since GIs are part of the CAP, only agricultural products benefited for wine, spirits, agricultural products, and foodstuff. But given the need for protecting GIs, third-party countries and member states, it's important and necessary to protect them in Europe. For this reason, why protect these products? Because we are insisting on having the same link to the origin between the handicraft products and agricultural products, because the link with the origin can be based only on local know-how, including for agricultural products. And there's also handicrafts that are based on natural factors such as local origin. So the origin and impact are particularly documented in the agri-food area, makes it possible to hope that there will be a positive impact of GI in industrial
Il permettra de bénéficier pour empêcher les usurpations. On a déjà vu en Colombie.
We've already seen in Colombia many legal decisions stopped counterfeiting artisanal products such as hats and various textiles.
En termes de prix, Dans le
In
domaine des
terms
vins,
of prices,
on apprécie de près
we
de 3 fois
appreciate
l'augmentation du prix
the price increases by
sous appellation
3
d'origine et
times
indication
if
géographique.
there is a
espérer
geographical
la même
indication
chose pour
or
les
an
produits
appellation of
agricoles.
origin. We can
Ainsi,
hope the same
le
thing will
Brunner
happen
de
for
Perpignan, qui vous
food.
était montré dans la
In
petite
Bernard,
vidéo,
in Perpignan,
a
they're
vu
showing a
son
little
prix
video.
augmenter de
Their price
50%
increased by
à
50%
partir de son enregistrement
when they
pour se
started
maintenir
having
maintenant à
this
20%
appellation,
de
and
premium.
it now has a 20% premium value as compared to what it was before. So the added value to the product makes it possible to have a territorial development, which can be coupled with tourism. Now, in the Espelette pepper spice attracted 500,000 users per year. In Thailand, many GIs protect handicraft products, and the Department of IG has a lot of spot and television commercials in silk products, which attract a lot of tourists.
Enfin, on regarde
Lastly, looking at the collective dynamics for GI, which makes it possible for all local producers to use these appellations. So in handicraft and in the food world, it makes it possible to identify producers. So in Peru, Churacanas ceramics have a collective organization of this production, which puts forward the quality control and the origin and the geographical indication. So products in handicraft deserve such attention as much as food products. The same origin, the same strength, the same traditional know-how. Culture is also important as nature in the identification of the location of origin.
Finalement, on assiste au même défi.
So the same challenge is present for food product as for handicraft products. There's a question of raw materials, which is not necessarily local, but the presence of know-how, which does justify this appellation of origin. This innovation is common with all the types of products.
Finalement, au vu des similitudes,
Ultimately,
on a envie de conclure
we'd like to conclude
de la même manière que
that
pour
in
les
the same
produits
way
agroalimentaires,
as for agri-food products, you must have the same protection with the appellation of origin and the geographical indication.
Se pose aussi la question
There's also the
de l'Union
question
européenne
in Europe of an institution of unique recognition that would approve specifications for all types of products because the value and the link is the same, whatever the product may be.
Enfin, c'est avec grand intérêt que nous avons écouté la Commission
We've
européenne
listened to
pour
the
justement
European
nous
Commission
présenter
present to us what the proposals were in this major issue for all handicapped people in Europe and third parties, countries that are waiting impatiently to be able to protect their GIs in the European Union. Thank you, Delphine, for this very complete overview. To continue the discussion, we're going to have Pierre Montero, who is a professor of law. Can you explain how we can protect on the European scale? Before I start, I'd like to thank the INPI and the director for having invited me to this very interesting roundtable. And to respond to your question from a legal point of view, in Europe, it is really important to have a system to be able to protect intellectual property, the products that we have now and in the future that are typical handicraft from various regions in the European Union. For this reason, we go to different countries, and it's one of the first things we notice are the typical products of the region. Here we'll see the examples of porcelain of Limoges, and I like to see the typical products of France in the same way as in Spain. In the region that I come from, in Valenciennes, it's very well known for many products, for example, shoes. That's why I think that in a similar way to the system that we have for geographical indications and agricultural products, we need to have a system to protect the added value and of that culture with respect to products that are not agricultural. As we saw in the previous roundtable, it's in the recognition of the value that you have to draw attention to. So this European regulation is important. And we can see the treaty of the way the European Union works. We need to be able to have a protection of culture and to safeguard the cultural heritage of Europe. And for that, there are various legal systems, but we need to find a legal system that is similar to the geographical indications, can be more consistent with the system we have for intellectual products. Insofar as the function of the new system of geographical indications, we need to know that geographical syndication, I'm talking about intellectual property, is more complex than intellectual products. There are functions that are coincident with intellectual property, but there are significant differences. Amongst those, we have in intellectual property, you have distinctive signs that make it possible, which we just saw in the film, to recognize and inform the client about the place of origin of the products and the characteristics or the quality of these products, which are certified with specifications. And this system makes it possible for us to draw attention to the value of this added value of the products. But amongst the differences, we don't have a regime that's unitary for all products. Now, in the agricultural area, it's differentiated by type of product, and the system is only European. So if you compare this with other, types of intellectual property, so the geographical indications we've already seen will give a primitive right, but it's not an individual right, it's a collective right. Since a producer in the region who respects the specifications, anyone has the right to use that appellation. That's why it's important to underline that this is a public geographical indication, and this indication will make it possible for producers to have a fair revenue that's proportionate to the quality of their products. Now, this difference with other rights involving intellectual property is also in case law in Europe. Lately, in the Morpier case, it was proven that the objective of that regulation was the protection of the cultural shared heritage. So this is a question that's very important to understand the geographical indications. So in the case of farming, this is an important tool in the CAP. There are advantages in the system of geographical indication, but the system encourages or demands the cohesion between producers, a bond, because it helps for traceability of products. It confers protection, and you can have help from institutions to enforce the law. In terms of consumers, there are diversified, typical, and quality products, and that is the reason that they represent a very important interest in picking up on in the recovery of tourism. And the right to intellectual property has a benefit for the European Union and international relations, as we've already indicated. So we are in a privileged situation here for the development of these new regimens with two initiatives that we have, DigiGrow, for working on the changes in intellectual property and also to review the geographical indication system. The coordination between these reforms represents a historical step for the right in terms of the European Union. So ultimately, with respect to the legal challenges, we have to see how to manage the fact that we don't have a common law on geographical indications for all products for the moment. And also, we have to see, with respect to the logo system, how we can have a system that is perhaps more visible, more readable internationally. And for management, it's also going to be a challenge to see the role in coordination between the associations and the international authorities. Also, another important question is to see what the exact purpose is, to analyze the outlines of the changes. So we need to harmonize the geographical indication systems with other systems for protection of distinctive signs, trademarks, and domains. The relevance, and I think this panel is doubtless very important to them, because geographical indications are one of the main challenges of the rights of intellectual property in the recovery process for the European Union. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Pilar, pour ces explications.
Thank you, Pilar, for that very clear presentation. I'd like to pass over to Benjamin Moutet. Benjamin, he's remote. Can you hear me, Benjamin?
Très bien.
Parfait, Benjamin.
So you're at the head of a Basque linen firm with a geographical indication. How is this a development business lever for your company? I can, of course, share my experience. We think that it was collective luck. It was a collective opportunity for our company and our region. So linge basque, Basque linen, is a traditional fabric from the south of France that has been manufactured for more than 100 years. It has specifications that were completed with the help of historians, and it has been documented thanks to the union that exists, Weavers' Union that exists in the minutes of the General Assemblies. So why is this know-how useful? Because it's a source of innovation, and this was our testimony through this geographical indication. Even if we have an old know-how, it can be a source of inspiration for many generations in terms of know-how, of product. So for our societies, our regions, it's fundamental. And many jobs were lost for the past 100 years, but we don't think it's a handicap. On the contrary, we think it's an opportunity to keep developing our companies, conveying our know-how with a product that tourists are going to look for, are going to seek. So it's a dual skill through industrial tourism and gastro area with a system, the system of protected geographical indications, the same as with handicraft or food products. So it's quite similar, and we see it in our companies, in our firms.
Merci beaucoup, Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Nous allons passer à un autre exemple.
Another concrete example.
Laurence Bess, vous êtes du coup la représentante de.
With Laurence Bess, who is the representative of the geographical indication of the porcelain de Limoges. So, how did it all happen? So on behalf of the association, I'd like to thank the INPI for the invitation and for allowing us to share our experience of geographical indication for the porcelain de Limoges. So our profession wanted to defend, to protect the Limoges porcelain, and from 2011 we expressed opposition on the bill for a GI mechanism. The law enforced this on the 17th of March 1994. So 4 main stages to 2014. After the law, we created a dedicated association so that we could fund the project. 16 founding members. We created the ODG, the Defense and Management Organization for the Limoges porcelain. So once we did this, we started working on drafting the specifications and a monitoring plan. So we did this from 2014 to 2017, and on the 1st of December 2017, we obtained the approval of our geographical indication by the INPI. The next stage was the certification of our operators, of our companies, and from 2018 to 2020, our our companies obtained their initial certifications. I wanted to tell you more about this GI. This is related to any product that is manufactured and decorated within the GI area. The Haute-Vienne department is the geographical area where all the manufacturing stages must be carried out. In order to benefit from the GI, professionals must be members of the OGG and obtain the individual certification I've just mentioned. 11 certifications were granted in 2018, 17 in 2019, and 9 in 2020. So we worked progressively, companies became members and received certifications and were certified. 36 certified firms, 7 manufacturers amongst them, and 12 firms that are both manufacturers and decorators, and 18 decorators. The sector has a high number of sectors, more of exports, more than up to 90% for certain companies, and our association is supported by 19 associated members, various organizations that are all concerned with GI, and they supported us in this approach, and that was a success. Today, what are the actions implemented by the OGG to defend our GI? I'd like to remind you that Limoges porcelain has an international reputation. Whether it's a product in porcelain or in ceramics, the title Porcelaine de Limoges or just Limoges, or it's just the mention, the reference that could cheat the consumer, the user. So we need to protect this name. And to defend our GI, our association has been monitoring abusive use of this product, and I'd like to mention 2 cases. Requests to intervene from customs. So some products were seized by customs. For instance, in Sète, in the south of France, the customs have identified products manufactured by a company, a firm in Iran called Limoges, and not Limoges. And the labeling to identify their products was very similar to a brand that is falling under the GI of Limoges, Porcelaine de Limoges. So they were destroyed, as the legislation is allowing us to do. Customs are very responsive, very efficient, and when there is a intellectual property right, then we need to use this right to request from customs to seize these products. We also noticed that online there were many abuse. We carried out a diagnosis, and we first started acting on marketplaces. More than 450 potential infringement, more than 376 announcements where adverts were deleted. We also focused on companies' websites. We managed to have products being deleted from their catalogs, and we worked on domain names as well, because we realized that some domain names had Limoges or Porcelaine de Limoges in their names, and we managed to identify a name, to delete, to destroy 2 names, and we have a portfolio today that allow us to protect the names with Limoges in it. And thanks to all these actions and to the abuses that we have identified with foreign firms using the name Limoges and Porcelaine de Limoges on their products, we have identified that there's a real need to protect these products at the European level. And the challenge is for these companies' activities to protect their know-how. And with the AFIGIA, which is the French Association of Handicraft and Industrial Geographical Indications, and with the support of regions such as Nouvelle-Aquitaine, with 6 geographical indications, and we are available to continue our exchanges with the European Commission and DG GROW. The European Commission Committee has recently published a report in favor of GI, and we hope that we will be able to benefit from an extended protection at the European level, since our companies are very much are expressing a strong need for this. So I'm available for any additional clarification. Thank you. Yes, geographical indications are very useful. We need to know more about the way we can protect them. And you mentioned DG GROW at the end, in the European Commission at the end of your speech. And so we have Claudia Martinez-Felix. It's a perfect transition. Claudia, can you hear us? She's online with us.
Yes. Yes.
I hope you can hear me well. Yes, we can hear you and see you well. So you are at the European Commission, DG GROW, and the Commission has started reflections on the protection of our artisanal and industrial products. What can you tell us about this?
Thanks
to the European Commission for having organized this extremely interesting roundtable, and I'd like to thank the panelists for their presentations. They highlighted what legislators need to know about markets, and what Pilar Montero said as well on about the challenges
qu'on doit maintenant effectivement aller en avance et donc
the challenges that we have to face, the way we need to progress.
Mais je voulais alors commencer pour dire qu'effectivement,
and I'd like to start with,
bien dit, vous savez bien,
as you all know it,
ne sont protégés que pour les produits agricoles. Alors,
the fact that geographical indications are only protecting agricultural products, and handicraft and industrial products are like the naughty kid that are not recognized, acknowledged at the same level as the other brothers and sisters in this beautiful family. So at the European level, we are paying attention to these needs that have been highlighted by the panelists. And I'd like to talk about the European level. the fact that we are aware that there is a European protection that is available, and France has also implemented protection systems that are very varied, and this means that we cannot protect at the European and international level geographical indications and their specific products. And we carried out many studies that are showing that a large number of regional products have a geographical indication, reputation, characteristics due to their place of origin, and that could benefit from this protected geographical indication at the European level, this PGI. And they're the characteristics of our regions. We talked about France, but they exist everywhere. For instance, in Ireland or in the east of Europe, we have specific types of ceramics in France as well, in Hungary, in the south of Italy, Albacete knives in Spain. These are examples, for instance, in Belgium, blue stones. So there are approximately 800 products that could benefit from what has already been mentioned, and we can guarantee for producers to have their know-how protected, their culture, their heritage protected. This is key. We need to reassure consumers, thanks to this added value, the fact that they need to certify their products. This also allows to combat counterfeiting. And we gave the example of the porcelain de Limoges and the fact that there are online threats. At the European Commission, we have already mentioned it in the industrial strategy published a while ago, that we need to promote the roles that intellectual property can play to add value for European companies. And that's how we need to make sure that the internal market gives large opportunities for many consumers and must follow rules that are modern and flexible. There must be a balance reached between administrative approaches and the rights that are granted. And in that regard, we need to mention the issue of benefits. We talked about the study of impacts. We need to have all the right information to create this European system of protected geographical indications. This system must be efficient and transparent. In this approach, today, I cannot tell you too much about the Commission's work because it's an ongoing work, but the impact study that the Commission is finalizing is a reaction to the promise made by the Commission on an action plan on intellectual property, but also a request made by other European institutions, such as the European Parliament, who since 2015 has been asking for this. It's the same for the Committee of Regions, the councils as well. We noticed today that there's many member states who are in support in favor of this protection system for handicraft and industrial products. For instance, in June, a declaration was made by certain member states, council members. They express the advantages of such a system for handicraft and industrial products, and in the context of the study being finalized by the Commission, we listen to the voices of producers and different stakeholders. And for instance, during our last public consultation at the European level in 2021 was clear. 92% of answers said that a European level initiative was necessary. And I think that 68% of answers, that's interesting, are strongly supporting of such a protection system with an autonomous regulation. So a strong support that has been expressed, but this is a potential initiative because they consider that trademark systems could be enough to protect this type of products. And I must highlight the fact that, as you probably know, it is forbidden at the European level to certify geographical indication for European trademark. And I'll talk about it later, but it doesn't seem like it's relevant to guarantee the protection in the Geneva Act that has been highlighted by previous speakers as well. We need to understand that the European Commission has made commitments in the Geneva Act. We have acceded to these treaties at the international level, the European level, and the Geneva Act applies to any type of product, food product, or handicraft and industrial products. And this is why the Commission has continued publishing studies in 2013, economic studies as well in 2020, 2021, a study that is focusing on the best system available to create a protected geographical indications regarding monitoring, follow-up. We have collected evidence and we have been able to use them in our impact study. The impact study that we're finalizing. Exchanges with member states as well, of course. In our expert group, we are organizing these sessions in an ad hoc way, a regular way, and exchanges with stakeholders and companies that also, of course, are interested in protecting their products. This legal project that the Commission is developing is relying on this economic study that I have mentioned and that was presented internally at the European Commission in November, and it has received a positive feedback. That was a very good piece of good news in November, and it allowed us to keep working on this topic within the European Commission. In this impact study, we have identified 3 potential possibilities to protect handicraft and industrial products. The first option that we have studied in great detail was to extend the existing GI's protection to cover artisanal and industrial products, so that we would implement this without taking into account specific characteristics or the type of market, which is not always obvious because it's not always the same as with agricultural products that have a more harmonized legal framework at the European level. There are health regulations, there are food safety standards as well. The second option is to develop a regulation so that we can have a specific protection system for geographical indication and handicraft and industrial products, so we can adapt it and we guarantee consistency with agricultural systems that already exist, but we adapt it to this type of product. And third option would be to reform the trademark system so that we can guarantee a quality of product that would be linked to a specific geographical indication. That would entail a reform of the legal system. How much would it change the trademark system? What is the public interest behind this geographical indication? So these were the 3 options that we have analyzed in great detail. We have also analyzed the possibility not to do anything, and the possibility to introduce a harmonization of national titles without creating a European title. And so this would mean that we don't have to comply with the requirements of the Geneva Act, so that there can be an international coverage, protection of GIs. In brief, that was the 3 options explored, and I think it took maybe a bit too much time to explain this, but I'd like to highlight the fact that there are these are the different options that we are exploring that could be part of a legal project presented by the Commission in the next few months. So first, the choice of a protection title at the European level that could replace or integrate, coexist with national systems that already exist. The case in France, for instance. It seems that more people are in favor of integrating, absorbing, and replace these systems, the national systems. That would be one of the issues that we need to study more. What type of registration systems would we like to see be set up? So there could be a system with 2 levels, with a test assessment, with a control by national authorities and then at the European level, or directly at the European level. And it seems here as well that at the European level, by maintaining a close collaboration with regions, this could be more efficient. Because let's not forget that we're talking about a regional product. In this context, that's another type of option that was explored at the European level. Could it be more effective that this would be managed by the European Commission, delegated to a specialized agency, and since a European specialized agency already has experience in this domain, this could be quite beneficial.
Alors, troisième aspect qu'on a analysé en détail, c'est par exemple le niveau des contrôles et suivis. Donc, on pourrait effectivement assimiler
points that we have studied: control and follow-up, monitoring and follow-up,
qui est un contrôle très solide, robuste.
We want to put in place a very robust control system, and we could think about adaptation so they become less costly, more flexible. Handicraft and industrial products could apply to this system the possibility to self-certify their products by producers to make sure that they comply with GI norms, standards, and of course there must be random checks carried out by the national authorities and sanction systems that would prevent, combat fraud, of course. So these must be discussed. It's important to put in place tools, concrete solutions to better combat abusive use of GIs online. We heard about domain names. Which is an important point that the EU must work on to find effective solutions.
Je ne sais pas si vous nous entendez bien en retour. Mais en tout cas, je pense que votre exposé
I don't know if you can hear us well. I think there was a very comprehensive presentation, and we're going to have to conclude this panel shortly. So I'd like to thank you all for the quality of your presentations, and we hope that the messages conveyed in these presentations will be listened, will be heard, and I'd like to give you back the floor, Asha, for a brief conclusion. Yes, we won't have much time, but two brief questions, brief answer as well. So first question, would you have an idea of the number of industrial and handicraft GIs, potential ones in France? A question for Delphine, maybe? Approximately 100 that have been identified in the study in 2013. Already 30 applications have been made that are in progress. A second question, what would be the link between European protection and the existing national systems? Maybe a question for Pilar. Thank you. I think that with the head of the units of the European Commission, that we understood what were the potential issues for a separated European system. And I think that we need to, for instance, take into account existing systems in France and Portugal and make a transition like we did at the agricultural level. We already have the experience of this, and I think the role of national authorities, and in particular of national trademarks and offices would be essential with the cooperation of the European Commission. And since you were very much concise, we can have one last question. What is your point of view of this system? Well, usually geographical indications are coming from outside. There's a link with the region. For instance, for porcelain de Limoges, we started by discovering kaolin next to Limoges in 1868 that allowed the boom of porcelain de Limoges. And today, kaolin comes from outside Limoges. We stopped exploiting this material in the 80s, and so this is what making a difference, as Delphine has explained, between the appellation of origin, a project coming from the region, and the GI, where the manufacturing is done on-site. That's what is essential. Thank you, Laurence, and thank you to all of you. Thomas, would you like to thank your panel members? Maybe I can complete Laurence's question regarding raw materials. It's also an issue for agricultural and food stuff, because sometimes the material is scarce, and there's a debate in the Parliament to talk about the origin of these raw materials. And this know-how is so important, sophisticated, traditional, that they also deserve a protection independently from raw materials. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you to all of you and to the people who are behind their screens. And I'll leave you. I'll let you conclude briefly, Thomas. Just to thank all the participants, and once again, thank you to the Commission for the very specific intervention. Thanks again, Claudiane, thank you to the INPI for organizing this roundtable. So that's it for this roundtable, and we'll be back in a minute. The program, our agenda continues.